Hey, hi Amar, nice to meet you. Maybe I'll just do a show of hands. How many people here are engineering or computer science students? Okay, and how many are lawyers or law students? All right, good. I didn't know who I was writing these for, so I get a mix. So hopefully there's something for everybody. Awesome. Okay, let me start with a little bit of the background. My name is Mar, like I said, and I'm a founder of Pair VC. I've been in venture for the last 13 years, but I consider myself a little small expert system of startups. And I probably have a large data set compared to most humans. I started 3 companies myself. I've invested in around 200 companies over 13 years. That's a lot of companies. And I also have been teaching Lean Launchpad at Stanford for the last 9 years. It's a long time. So I've seen about 90 teams in my class. So that gives you a sense. In my head, I have this 300, companies that I have gone, and I've seen them start from zero. And I think a lot of you here in the Hackathon may be at a similar place. Awesome. Well, I've been working really hard for many years, and in the last year, something has happened called the SaaS apocalypse. I don't know how to pronounce it exactly, but it's a big deal. And I know you see this number here in the screen that says $1 trillion was wiped out in market cap, and you're sitting down and it doesn't make a difference. But if you are an older venture fund and have a bunch of SaaS companies in your portfolio, that means a lot of that value has gone away, right? And that's actually pretty scary. If you think about it, I don't know how many people were excited about Figma going public, but those in venture were there. This happened in the summer. Their value has gone down 76% in just 9 months, or actually less. It's crazy if you think about it. Same with Atlassian and even Thomson Reuters, which is a company that definitely lawyers know about, the regular human may not know. It's gone down more than half, right? So that's a big deal. And the same way bad things happen, good things have happened, right? All these companies that have started maybe, some of them just less than 5 years ago, some of them only 2 years ago. They get from $0 to $100 million in revenue, and from $0 to $10 billion in valuation really quickly, right? So the world has changed. These big companies that we have are going down to zero, and these new companies that we have grow really, really fast, very, very quickly, okay? So everything I learned actually has to be relearned. The way we evaluate companies, the way I give advice to founders, everything. And I think you may have seen this or heard about this, but this is what's going on in the market. We used to value software as the unit of value, and right now we value services and outcomes. And this is going to become relevant at the end of my talk. Second, pricing. It used to be SaaS was very easy. You would pay per seat, and now we pay per service, you pay per outcome. It's a completely different business model. The KPIs are different. It used to be revenue and logo retention, and now we're talking about, hey, what is the revenue per employee? We're building these super hyper-efficient companies. And what's the work delivered? Have you delivered significant work? And what's your moat? It used to be your software is your moat. I think software is not a moat anymore, so I am going to make the claim that your brand and your reputation are your moat. So what does that mean? Okay, very similar in legal. I actually have the eras of legal here, very summary. First, we had the SaaS era that took a long time when they released companies, Clio, Ironclad is pretty new, Relativity, etc. Then there is the Copilot era. It was very short. People had this chatbots inside the traditional SaaS products. Then the agent era, we're still in the agent era, if you think about it. Harvey, Lagora, they all started in Copilot and very quickly went to the agent. And now we're entering the new era for legal AI, which is the AI firms. And that's what people are building now. If you actually sit in my chair and see who comes to me, they're all AI legal firms. They're not even selling agents anymore. So, and they're growing really fast. The difference is clear. We used to sell software, and now we're selling services. So I believe, and there's some controversy I know about being an AI native law firm and so on, but every law firm would be an AI firm. And what does that mean to be an AI firm? What it means is that you're going to be much more efficient than you used to be. So when you were an old firm, you were in those, if you can read it, those red, those green lines. So your revenue will grow proportionally with the cost, right? You have more business, you hire more lawyers, etc. A big firm has a lot of revenue. They're probably more inefficient, but that's how it is. An AI native firm follows the yellows. The cost only grows linearly, but the revenue grows exponentially. So you can make a lot more money with fewer lawyers, okay? Awesome. So if everybody looks the same inside, how will clients choose AI law firms? Everybody as a firm, how will you choose? I would say it's the same today. There's a lot of law firms. How do people choose law firms? Any guess? How do people choose law firms?
Relationships.
Relationships, that's right. Who do you know? That's exactly right. So, I'll tell you how we chose our lawyer when we started here. This guy, his name is Greg Doshi, and he works, he's retired. But he was the lawyer that did all the venture funds formations. Okay, there's 2 firms in the Valley that do it. They do 90% of the business. He was one of them, so we chose him because of his brand. Everybody was like, oh, you should work with Craig, you should work with Craig. Then we went to meet Craig, and he's the only lawyer that went on a whiteboard to explain to me what a fund was. So I thought, well, he must know what he's talking about, so I respected his judgment. And finally, I said, question mark price, because he was too expensive, but he assured me it was a standard rate. Okay, so I think when my students choose my founders, everybody chooses a lawyer, they'll ask me, who do you recommend? So, we have a couple of people we recommend. Then they meet them and they interview them, and whoever they feel they have the best relationship with, they'll go higher. And I think, again, they try to negotiate, but I'm not sure. Maybe that's becoming easy. Anyway, so that's how it is. I think if you're building here today, you probably want to build tools that work for these AI law firms and help them with their brand trust and reputation, with their judgment, and hopefully with their price, right? Because if they're more efficient, they're going to be able to be more competitive. Awesome. So, okay, let's go with that. So, number 1, ideas for you guys to build is solutions to increase the firm efficiency. And I think everybody's working on this already, but specifically for the large firms, if you're a large firm that has thousands of lawyers, even hundreds, and some of them have been working there for 30 to 40 years, I promise you people don't know how to use AI. So just upskilling the lawyers that exist today is a huge opportunity. It might not last forever, but there's a lot of them out there that don't know how to use AI. I mean, CodeX is like, I don't know, foreign language, right? So anything that will help them will do. I have a picture of one of my companies called August, and they go in and they become friends. Just, let me tell you about legal AI in general. And people are so grateful because there's so much fear inside of this firm. So that's one. The second is obviously deploy AI within your firm. And if anybody has tried to deploy agents, they're still pretty brittle, and they kind of work some of the times. Even I use CodeX all the time, and so some mornings I wake up, I'm like, I'm managing my 5 agents running around, but I'm always debugging them because they get stuck. You have to give them guardrails, etc. It's too complicated still for the regular person, I would say. So a lot of this, building the AI infrastructure and agent harness is actually very important. So any of you that is working on that, you can deploy it in legal or in other applications. So that's a good idea for a hackathon. Awesome. The second is solutions to capture the lawyer's judgment and expertise. So these lawyers actually have a lot of expertise, and what we could do, what we should do, is actually use that expertise to guide some of these agents, right? Some of the best businesses have this data flywheel where they have some proprietary data that they don't share with anybody. They use it to improve their own AI. They may use specialized models or specialized workflows, and they use that to offer better service, which hopefully would get them more data, and so on and so on. So these flywheels are actually really important, and if you have access to them, That's very, very valuable. I particularly like businesses that give you access to data. You can reuse some of this encoded expertise, build a knowledge graph from the firm with all the interactions that they've ever had, et cetera, and give context to the agents. Those are ideas. If anybody wants to work on that, that's good. Okay. Another topic could be tools or solutions to enhance brand, reputation, and trust. So first, you need to make these agents reliable and trustworthy. That's very important because if you don't trust your agent, your client is not going to trust you. Governance is very important in this new AI law firm who stands behind those solutions. And then what I call the law firm human interface. So even if you have a bunch of agents, at some point you will have to talk to a client. And those of you who are lawyers know that the lawyers are also therapists of the clients. So when we have when we're upset, or when we are getting sued or want to sue somebody, we spend thousands of dollars to the most expensive therapist in the world. So it's the same. Will still exist because we're all humans at the end of the day. And if you're going through a tough situation, you're going to want to talk to somebody and give you some confidence. So that's important. I think this is the same company as one of our companies, but one of the things they've spent a lot of time on is building a client interface. So the idea is like, hey, all these agents, they can be run by the law firm, but they could also be run by the client. And if there was a way that you communicate efficiently and tell the client, this was reviewed by a lawyer, or we stand behind this, or we don't stand behind this, or I'll buy insurance behind this solution, that's actually important. So you're expanding law, so it's not just legal firms, but your own clients can run it. So that's interesting. This is what I think legal will be at the end of the day. Today, it's definitely before 2022. Law firms look like this. They're all humans. These big yellow dots, and there were a few of them, and very few people had access to the best lawyers. But in the future, I think law firms will look like this. They'll be smaller. The green stands for AI inside, and the yellow is the different human interfaces that these lawyers will have. There'll be different types of AI. Some firms will have more or less, etc. But that's what the world will look like. So I think if you guys, when you're designing today for the hackathon, think of the world that looks like those dots, and I think you'll find uses for that. Okay, with that, I'll wrap it up.